A man receives a call that leaves him completely shocked, since never in his life would he have imagined that he would have to take care of and protect a 9-year-old girl, who claims to be his daughter just because she found a photo of him with his mother. Hours earlier, a girl named Tulsa had the courage to call the police to put an end to the constant attacks and mistreatment that her adoptive brother received from her surrogate mother, since the death of her biological mother 2 years ago, she has not had a real home.
Nobody wants you. Your family didn't even want you.
Alone and without family, the girl is taken to social services, assigning the case to Jaylene, while her brother Michael is taken to a foster home. Without wasting time, Jaylene meets with Tulsa, and the girl shows her a photo that she got in her mother's Bible. She assures that the one she is next to her mother is her father. Jaylene immediately recognizes that it is her friend Tommy, so she immediately calls him to tell him that he has a daughter, who he didn't even know existed. The next day, Jaylene meets with Tommy, who is still very disturbed by the news of his new daughter, feeling that he is not yet ready to be a father. But Jaylene convinces him to meet her and give him the opportunity to be with him and be his friend, since she has no family or anyone who loves her. She also tells him that she wants to do a paternity test later on to find out if she really is his daughter. Tommy agrees to meet Tulsa, and she shows him how much she needs a father and, determined to take on the role of his daughter, asks him to take her to her new home. Then he takes her to see his mechanical workshop, and without asking permission, the girl enters the house, observing all the disorder around her. And without further ado, Tulsa takes the initiative and goes in search of her room to stay permanently with her father. Although Tommy doesn't like that very much, it is a good time to take advantage and enjoy life with Tulsa, since in the future a very delicate situation will arise with Tulsa that will radically change life. While Jaylene will do everything possible so that Tulsa and Tommy become the family that the girl dreams of having. From that moment on, having the girl is an odyssey for Tommy, where the girl does everything so that Tommy is a proper man, and stops consuming alcohol and prohibited substances to which he is accustomed. And even though Tommy warned her not to touch anything, Tulsa decides to throw away all the liquor bottles, cigarettes, and anything that affects Tommy's health. Then he gets really angry, but sometimes feeling like she cares about him makes him feel kind of happy, even though he doesn't want to admit it. Apparently Tommy has a lot of financial problems, and that makes him secretly take forbidden pills to relieve some stress, but Tulsa discovers this and makes him promise that if he can't give up those substances on his own, he will seek professional help.
Promise me you'll get help.
The next day, a bishop arrives at the workshop, who would like Tommy to be a believer, and when he leaves him a Bible to read. Well, that didn't work, as he didn't believe in God, and when he found the Bible he threw it away with great anger. He immediately realized that Tulsa saw him. This makes him miserable, and he goes after her to apologize. For now, the only thing Tulsa is worried about is thinking about how to help her father with his financial problems, and to do so she begins to rummage through his things, and when she sees the number of delinquent clients she comes up with something spectacular. Posing as the owner of the workshop, she manages to gather all the debtor clients to a supposed raffle for a personalized motorcycle in order to force them to pay the debt. At that moment Tommy enters and gets angry, so Tulsa clarifies that there is no such raffle, and reminds them that they must pay. What no one expected is that everyone present had already cancelled, some had even cancelled many months before. Right there Tommy discovers that his employee, DJ, is the one who was robbing him. And in the face of threats to his daughter for ratting him out, Tommy becomes fierce, defending his puppy, which makes Tulsa feel very proud of him.
You will leave here on a stretcher.
Thus, thanks to Tulsa, her father was able to regain economic stability. And in gratitude he invites her to celebrate together. Of course, Jaylene could not be missing, who was the dance teacher and the role model for the parents' dance, so everyone enjoyed themselves and had an excellent evening. At dawn, homesickness takes over Tulsa and she writes a letter to Michael, telling him how much she loves him, that she misses him, and that she prays for him every day so that they can soon be together again, like a real family. Putting the letter away, she finds a photo and is disappointed. And when Tommy arrives at her house, she complains to him about having lied to her, but he doesn't know what she's talking about since he has remained sober and without smoking all these days. She insists and shows him the ultrasound photo she found on his desk, since for Tulsa, he did know of its existence and didn't care. So Tommy gets sad and tells her that it's not her, but her brother who is no longer here. Then in a low voice he complains to her about touching her things, tells her that it's none of her business and leaves. Along the way, Tommy begins to remember what happened years ago. At that time he was Lisa's boyfriend. When that disastrous day, she very happily arrived at the workshop to tell him that she is 4 months pregnant and it is a boy. This news shocks Tommy, and although she suggests that he stay clean from prohibited substances and promises to control his bad mood, he doesn't see it as simple as she sees it, so he suggests that she get rid of her baby. Then, totally disappointed, she starts crying and leaves. Immediately, Tommy reconsiders and calls her with regret, but it is too late. She does not want to answer him. She has already made the terrible decision to take her own life at the same moment that he leaves the message on her cell phone, asking her to forgive him, that he loves her.
We'll figure all this out.
Upon arriving at the place where everything happened, Tommy closes the cycle of what has tormented him all these years, to put an end to all this and stop feeling guilty, to be able to start a new life. When he gets home, he tells her about the sad end of her brother and confesses that he was not ready to be her father, so she gives him a hug saying that he is the perfect father for her. And for the first time he wanted me to talk to him about Jesus. From then on, Tommy changed his attitude and began to behave like a real father. Days later he surprises Tulsa by giving her a bicycle, and like any father would do, he teaches her how to ride it. One day, Tulsa, seeing her father busy, asks him for permission to walk to school, and even though he told her to wait to take her in the vehicle, she convinces Tommy and leaves, but before leaving, he tells her to be careful when crossing the street. A few minutes later, even though Tulsa took her precautions, she was run over by a person who was distracted by the ringing of her cell phone. Everything happened so quickly that people, terrified when they saw the girl's body, approached her to help her. Meanwhile, Tommy receives the painful call informing him of what happened, and upon arriving at the hospital the doctor informs him of the girl's critical condition, telling him that she is in an induced coma, since she suffered head injuries. Which worries him a lot since she has a significant subdural hematoma, which is nothing more than a hemorrhage inside the skull, which causes a lot of pressure and must be released. For now Tulsa needs to rest, so Tommy must wait for the doctor's orders to see her. Hours later when the doctor authorizes it, Tommy, seeing her unconscious, begs her to come home soon. The next day the doctor tells him that Tulsa has already woken up, but she is still very bad, so he should be very patient with her. Very sad, Tommy tells her that he misses her, while she, almost unable to speak due to the headache, tries to explain to him that she took precautions when crossing the street. He encourages her and so she knows that he supports her. He gives her his necklace, while telling her that she loves her and will take care of her. Suddenly she shows up to the bishop with a group from the church and sings her favorite song, which makes her very happy. The days pass and she slowly recovers. One day Tulsa takes advantage of the fact that Tommy is asleep to write a letter and places it in her bag. A few days later, seeing that the headache was still tormenting Tulsa, the doctor calls Jaylene and Tommy to tell her that she is not responding to the treatment, since the pressure in her brain is not releasing as expected. And if it continues, she will go into a real coma. After learning that, Tommy and Jaylene don't know what to do and ask the doctor if there is another treatment to give her. But the doctor's response is much more heartbreaking, since there is a procedure that is extremely risky, where there would be 50% of a healthy recovery, and the other 50% would be permanent paralysis or worse. Tommy is in a dilemma, since the doctor tells them that if they do nothing Tulsa will lose her life, and if she undergoes the procedure she may also lose her life. And for now you can only manage Tulsa's pain as well as you can, and try to lower the pressure a little. Tommy now has to face how hard it is to tell Tulsa, and asks Jaylene to pray for a miracle. It is a hard moment, and when explaining to Tulsa the delicate nature of her situation, she begins to cry. So Tommy understands that it is normal for her to be afraid, but the reality is that she is not afraid of meeting Jesus and her mother. What she doesn't want is to leave him, because then he will forget her, which breaks Tommy's heart, who crying tells her that he could never forget his daughter. Then Tommy encourages her and tells her that they are going to make it and that she is not alone in this. And without anything else to say, she hugs him, telling him that he is the best father in the world and that she loves him, and she also wants him to remember that moment. Upon arriving home after being arrested for a fight he had with DJ for defending Tulsa, he begins to pray for her. He feels helpless, and without knowing what to do, he thinks that if he could, he would change his life for hers. When he suddenly finds a drawing of God on a flyer promoting the school parents' dance with a message that says, "When the night holds on to you, God is also holding on to you." Then he, very excited, brings a bouquet of flowers to Tulsa, inviting her to parents' dance.
This better not be a joke.
So, in complicity with the doctor, they escape to the dance, but they must return no later than midnight. Tulsa really looks spectacular, and with her help she climbs onto Tommy's feet, realizing her dream of dancing with her father at school. The day of her surgery arrives, and as they take to the operating room, she never tires of telling Tommy that she loves him and that she is very proud of him.
I love you, Tommy Colston.
The wait seems endless, until the doctor comes out and gives him the sad news that he has done everything he could do for Tulsa. Tommy, devastated by the pain of having lost her, reads the letter that Tulsa left him, where she tells him how happy she was to have such a wonderful father, and asks him to be very strong. Apparently she had it all planned, since she wrote that she is now in heaven with her mother and Jesus, and not to worry because she will also find his son, and in the end she begs him to adopt Michael and with an "I love you" says goodbye to him. Jaylene feels very proud of Tommy for being a good man, and for having stayed with Tulsa until the end, even though he knew that she was not his daughter, since she, like him, had seen the DNA results. He ends by saying that Tulsa will always be her daughter. Thus, fulfilling the will of his daughter Tulsa, he begins the next chapter of his life with Jaylene, adopting Michael, who will grow up with his new little brother. And Tulsa will never be forgotten for the rest of their lives. This is the summary of a Christian movie based on true events called Tulsa. Click here and don't miss the next story.